بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We begin in today's lesson, inshallah wa qaddar, a new chapter about one of the great pillars of Islam, and this is the pillar of Zakat. Islam is a religion. It is a way of life. It is a divine system that has been designed and placed for us to practice by Allah Azza wa Jal, who created the heavens and the earth. And this is why this system is a perfect one, because it does not come from human beings. It is not man-made. It is a system that the one who created us placed it for us. This is why it is a perfect system, flawless. You cannot find any loopholes in it. And this is a well-known fact. Whether the non-Muslims like it or not, Islam is the perfect religion. It doesn't only deal with your spiritual matters, such as prayer, your invocation of your Lord, what's between you and Him. This is something that Islam may share with other religions, but it also deals with the life we live in. If you go to other religions, you will not find in these religions policies and procedures that governs their relationship with their Lord, in addition with their relationship with other human beings, whether Muslims following their own religion or following other religions. It may also not cover the financial aspects and economy. It may not cover political and social issues that are coming up week by week, month by month, and year by year. Islam has the solution for everything, because it is from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it is not made for a specific period of time. It is the ultimate religion till the day of judgment. So it has to cover all places, all times, all social aspects, all ethnicities, all different environments. Everything is covered in Islam. And this is why one of the pillars of Islam is called Zakat. And we know that Islam has 5 pillars, but maybe some of the non-Muslims are watching, either interested in knowing what Islam is all about, or haters who are trying to hold something against Islam. In either way, we have nothing to hide. Alhamdulillah, they are more than welcome. So there are 5 pillars of Islam. These 5 articles are the article of Tawheed, to believe and submit that there is no God, there is no deity worthy of being worshipped in this universe except Allah the Almighty, who created us. And to believe that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allah's servant and messenger. The second article is to establish the 5 daily prayers, which goes with you till you die, every single day. You have to pray 5 times. The third pillar, which is our topic of today, is zakat. And some make the third pillar as fasting the month of Ramadan. So zakat, which we are talking about in Arabic, the linguistic meaning of it is to increase, to grow. And one of the most common meanings of the word zakat is to purify. We all most likely memorize the surah, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. زَكَّاهَا, he has prospered whoever purify his soul. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. So az-zakat, tazakka, zakkaha, they all stem from the same root, which is purification. As for the linguistic concept, this is understood. What about the technical meaning of zakat? What is zakat? Zakat is an obligation upon each Muslim who possesses a certain threshold of a specific material or part of the sources of zakat, because there are 4 categories of zakat. If you have the threshold and the time is bound to pay, you have to give a particular percentage to a specific group of people. That's a long definition, Sheikh. Yeah, I know. But to sum it up, what is zakat? There are 4 categories that you have to give zakat if you possess one of them. 1, gold and silver. And underneath this category also, we can include all currencies. 2, cattle or livestock, camels, cows, and sheep, and goats. 3, certain crops that are grown, such as dates, corn, wheat, barley. And we will come to discuss this later on, inshallah. 4thly, we have whatever is made to be sold and bought, and we call it urud al-tijara. Anything that is prepared to be sold and bought in order to increase your income and wealth, this is considered to be zakatable. So we have to look at the threshold, a certain limit. If it reaches it, then we have to give zakat. If it's below that, there's no zakat. And a specific period of time must be there, which usually they call it the lunar year. So you have to possess the gold, silver, and cash, the livestock, and the things that you sell and buy, these 3 categories, for a whole lunar year in order for the zakat to be due. If it's 11 months and 25 days, there's no zakat. But the 4th category, which is the crops that are grown from earth, this is different. The threshold, once is there and it is the harvesting time, then we have to give zakat. Whether it's twice a year, once every 2 years, what counts is the harvesting date. And the categories we have to give it to are 8 that are mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah, chapter 9, verse 60. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. This is these are the 8 categories, and we will come to discuss each one and explain them, insha'Allah azza wa jalla. So the definition is good for those who understand, because they can break it word by word and then understand what it is made of. But if you don't know what it is made of, it would be like a riddle, and this is why I had to explain to you in long sentences. So I hope this makes sense. Status. Of course, it is, as stated before, one of the pillars of Islam. So often when you read the Qur'an, you will find أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. They establish prayer and they give the zakat. They call it the alms due. And this indicates how important it is, because we know that salat is one of the most important pillars of Islam. So when you associate zakat with it, this means that it is a serious thing. The Quran is filled with verses about it. In Surah At-Tawbah, chapter 9, Allah stated that if the idol worshippers establish salat and give zakat, they become our brethren. So it is a sign of Islam. And Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, tribes and groups of Muslims apostatized and left Islam, claiming that we don't have to give zakat to Abu Bakr. We were told to give it only to the Prophet ﷺ. So he fought with them in the wars of apostasy, known as Hurub al-Ridda. And we know that the consensus of Muslims is that you cannot be a real Muslim until you believe in the obligation of zakat. And the issue, which is an issue of dispute, whether those who do not pay zakat, are they considered to be kafir or not? And this is an issue of dispute. What is known to us is that whoever abandons the salat, he's a kafir. And it's an issue of dispute as well, but the most authentic opinion is leaving salat, whether believing in its obligation but a person is simply lazy, or a person does not pray at all due to his disbelief in it. The most authentic opinion is that he is a kafir, because the Prophet stated ﷺ, بين المرء والكفر, between a man and kufr, and disbelief is abandoning salat. Whoever abandons it becomes a kafir, and this is authentic. Now, this is the only thing that the Prophet said abandoning would be kufr, which is prayer. He did not say that whoever prays, or he did not say whoever does not fast is a kafir, because neglecting anything from the deen is kufr. So when he says whoever abandons salah is a kafir, he did not say that if a person abandons salat out of disbelief. He doesn't have to do that, because if you abandon zakat out of disbelief, or fasting out of disbelief, or any of the rituals of the deen because of disbelief, this would be blasphemous and an act of apostasy. So this means that when he specifically mentioned salat, he meant whether out of laziness or anything else. So what about zakat? Zakat is always mentioned with the salat, and also in the ayah or the two ayahs of Surah At-Tawbah, that if they were to repent, establish salat, and give zakat, they are your brethren. In another verse, let them go, let them loose, let them go free. So this means that by reverse analogy, mafhum al-mukhalafa, if they don't pray or if they don't give zakat, then they're not your brethren, they're kafir. So some scholars said that, but the most authentic opinion is that those who do not give zakat out of laziness, not out of disbelief, out of laziness, out of stinginess, they are Muslims, but they're not kafir. And the evidence is that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when he stated how people who do not give zakat will be punished by these goods and their wealth, whether it's a cow or a camel or a sheep that they would carry on their backs, and whether it is gold or silver that would made into plates, heated in hell, and then they are burnt with it on their foreheads, sides and backs. And then Allah says, and after that, meaning after all that punishment, it is to Allah to forgive or to throw them in hell. Which means that there is a chance of forgiveness, which means that it is a major sin and not an act of blasphemy or apostasy, because if it were an act of blasphemy or apostasy, they would never have left hellfire. So I hope this makes you understand how the scholars analyze things and look at things and judge things, which most of us most likely would not have thought of it. And most of us would say, whoa, I never knew that. Yeah, you never knew that, but the problem is the vast majority of ignorant Muslims reject most of the things they hear from scholars. So no, this is not applicable. What is your dalil? MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I'll give you my dalil, but do you know Arabic? Do you memorize the Qur'an? Have you gone through the Sunnah? Have you even studied one single school of thought from beginning to end? No. So what would you do with the dalil? I could fabricate something for you and give it to you. So it is important to respect scholars, regardless of what school of thought they follow. It is important to respect their studies and researches. If they were right, Allah would reward them twice. If they were wrong, Allah would reward them once. But you, on the other hand, won't be at all rewarded for just rejecting whatever you hear without any proper knowledge that allows you to do this. And this is where humbleness comes to a student of knowledge. You have to be humble. You have to be susceptible to accepting an advice, even if it was a harsh one, from your sheikh, from your imam, from your teacher. And we've been taught this way, not because our teachers were impolite, rather because they wanted us to be humble, to know which grounds are we standing on, the reality of ourselves. And this helped us a lot, alhamdulillah, as we grew older. So this is the status of zakat. The condition of zakat, as usual, there are different conditions and similar conditions. One condition for zakat is that a person that gives it is a Muslim. Allah tells us in Surah At-Tawbah again, and this is a beautiful surah for us to memorize. وَمَا مَنَعَهُمْ أَن تُقْبَلَ صَدَقَاتُهُم. Why Allah did not accept what they had spent, their charity? The reason is that they have disbelieved in Allah and the Prophet ﷺ. So the hypocrites' charities would not be accepted. The disbelievers' charities would not be accepted on the Day of Judgment. It will all be turned into dust. So Islam is essential in the acceptance of whatever good deeds you do. Number two, freedom. And this is important because a slave is not ordered to give zakat. Why? Isn't he a human being? The answer is definitely yes, he is a human being. Isn't he ordered to pray? Yes, he's ordered to pray, but he is not obliged to pray in the masjid. What do you mean? He's a Muslim, yes, but he's a slave. So he is supposed to be dedicated to his master's demands and work. So by going to the masjid, by going to Friday prayers, this would hinder his master's work. And this is why scholars say he doesn't have to go. If his master allows him, alhamdulillah, he is not obliged to perform hajj. And when it comes to zakat, he cannot give zakat. Whoa, cannot. Or you say should not. No, he cannot. But why? The answer is that a slave and all what he owns belong to his master. So if I have a slave, the clothes on him are mine. He has no power to go and sell them. If I have a slave and he drives a fancy car, the car is mine. Yes, Sheikh, but he bought it from his own money. He doesn't have money. He's a slave. I can sell him whenever I want. So this is part of slavery, and he does not possess any wealth, and hence he cannot give any zakat. Number three, a person, in order to give zakat, he has to have access. He has to have, not access, he has to have more than what he needs and uses, excess maybe, than what he needs. So I'm not all told to take off my clothes and give zakat from them, or to sell my car, or to sell my house. These are essential things that we need: food, clothes, shelter, and hence zakat should be something out of my need, extra than the things that I need. Number four, the turn of the full lunar year. And this, of course, applies to all the categories that I've mentioned in the beginning, which is essential for you to remember, because this is half of zakat, to know the categories of the wealth that we are ordered to give zakat from. So this applies for gold, silver, and currencies, one. Crops grown from earth, two. Let me rephrase that. Unfortunately, they don't have editing powers here to scratch that out. The categories that must be given zakat after completing a lunar year are three. One, gold, silver, and currencies. Two, livestock. Three, merchandise. or goods that are sold and bought in trading. But the fourth category, which is the crops or the agricultural products or produces, these are exempted. These are to be given once the harvesting is done. And in the textbook it says the conditions in number 4, second line or third line, this condition does not apply to agricultural produce, mineral resources or rikaz. Now what is mineral resources, and why didn't you mention them in the 4 categories of zakat? And what is rikaz? I don't know if we're going to talk about this later on, but it's important that we explain it so that you have an idea. Minerals, as we know them today, are different to the minerals known to the scholars of Islam long ago. So now minerals are limited in a number of material: gold, silver, copper, iron, zinc, magnesium, whatever. In the old scholars of Islam who studied chemistry more thoroughly than today's scientists, they made that reach to 700 or more, because they considered everything on earth and underneath earth to be minerals. So they considered even NASA, I think, which is salt, to be a mineral. So the scholars long ago differed whether zakat is due on minerals or not. So the Hanafi school of thought said zakat is mandatory on every type of mineral that is solid. Minerals that are liquid, such as mercury, oil, tar, these are not zakatable. Zakat is only due on minerals that are treated like gold and silver, heating, by pounding, by changing the shape of it. These are the zakatable minerals. Hanbali school of thought said, no, any mineral is zakatable, regardless. Maliki and Shafi'i school of thought said that no, minerals are not zakatable. We need evidence from the Qur'an and the Sunnah to state that it's zakatable, because we only know of the gold and silver. So whether it's ore of gold and silver, whether it is refined, whether it is this or that, yes, there is zakat. But to claim that we have to give zakat on rubies, emeralds, pearls, to give zakat on magnesium, on cobalt, on whatever, no, we need evidence. And this is the most authentic opinion. And this is the choice of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen and a number of great scholars as well. And this is the most authentic. So there's no zakat on oil. Unless, of course, these minerals are used to trading. So you extract it and you sell it, then it becomes urud al-tijara, the 4th category, which we will come to discuss later on, if Allah is willing, Azza wa Jal. Okay, what about rikaz? Rikaz is known to the jurors as Dafnul Jahiliyyah. In English, the treasures of pre-Islamic era. So treasure hunters, if you go in the Mediterranean and you dive for wrecked ships and you find a ship that predates Islam, and you find a chest with golden jewelry in it, this is known as rikaz. So how would I know, Sheikh? Do I have to use carbon 14 or whatever that is used with fossils so that I can tell the date of the age of such findings? The answer is no. If it were gold coins, you can see by what is engraved on it that it is from the Byzantine era or the Greeks or the Roman Empire or from even way before that. So even if you dig underneath a piece of property and you find money and wealth and treasures, if it is pre-Islamic era, this is known as rikaz. Those who find it, it's finders keepers. But they are instructed to give the highest ratio of zakat ever in Islam, which is 20% or fifth of what you had found. And you have to give it to the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. So, okay, what about if I find a chest full of gold and jewelry, but the coins indicate that this is from the Ottoman Empire, so it's like 600 years old or even 1,000 years old? In this case, this is not considered to be rikaz. This belongs to someone, and he was a Muslim, and hence it has to go back to him, and there's a process of finding and trying to tracing it, etc. So I thought of giving you a preview of this so that we don't go deep without understanding whatever is mentioned in the textbook. So now we have the 7 categories, or the 8 categories, that is, of the recipients of zakat, who is supposed to receive or supposed to be among the beneficiaries of zakat. So, as mentioned, it is ayah number 60, verse number 60, chapter number 9, Surah At-Tawbah. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned these 8 categories. It is very important to know who these people are, because so many times people come and say, Sheikh, my aunt is very poor. She has only 2 sons and 1 daughter, and she's a widow. Can I give her from my zakat? Or, Sheikh, I have nephews and they are very poor. Can I give them from zakat? Or, Sheikh, my sister is married and her husband does not work. Can I give her from zakat? So many people make the mistake of saying, yeah, sure, no problem. And this is wrong. Why? Because Allah described the beneficiaries with a description. If the description does not fit them, you cannot simply go and give anyone you want zakat just because he's your relative, just because you feel sorry for them, just because he's your friend at work for the past 20 years and you want to help. You have to ask yourself, is that person classified as one of the 8 categories? If yes, then give them the zakat. If not, then you cannot give them from the zakat. If yes, give them from the zakat, providing that there is no other thing that prevents you from giving them zakat. So the first category, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ, to the poor, وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, and the needy. Okay? interesting, but what is the difference? What is the difference between the poor and the needy? Scholars say there are terminologies in Islam, and when these terminologies come together, each has a separate meaning. When they separate, they all mean the same. So Islam, when Allah speaks about al-Muslimin, it is exactly the same as al-Mu'minin. Islam and Iman are the same when separately addressed. O you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. This includes believers, Mu'minin and Muslimin. But when it comes together, when Allah says al-Muslimina wal-Muslimat, Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat, okay, there's a difference here because now they're joined together. Like al-birr, al-taqwa, al-ihsan, al-Islam, all of these are same. But when they come together, they separate. Poor and needy, they mean the same. He's poor, he's needy. But when they're together, each has a separate meaning. So what is the meaning of poor? The poor is a person who does not have enough that suffices him. So any person who has a salary and the salary runs out on the 10th day or the 15th day of the month or the 20th day, then he's broken. He needs to beg or to borrow to continue the rest of the month. And this happens every month. If he finds lunch, he won't find dinner. And if he finds dinner, most likely he won't find breakfast. This is classified as poor. A miskin or a needy is someone who's a little bit better. So yes, he has breakfast, lunch and dinner. He has a car. His salary suffices him for the whole month. He doesn't need money to eat or drink, but he's short on other things that are not a commodity, but are essential for a decent life. So he has all the basics, but he cannot afford to take his children to school. He needs school fees. He also is unable to provide for his children medical treatment. His wife may go under surgery and he cannot afford that. So such a person is not poor, but he is in need and he has to be helped. So this is the difference between the poor and the needy. It's very slight, but yes, a man can be having a job and a monthly salary, and he has a house. He wants to get married, but he cannot save a penny to get married with. And he needs money for the wedding, for the dowry, and he can't afford it. He's considered to be a miskin, a needy. He can be helped from zakat money, providing of course he's a Muslim, because I cannot give zakat money except to the Muslims, and providing that he's not one of my dependents. So I can't give zakat to my father or mother, or my son or daughter, or to my wife. They all depend on me and I am obliged to provide for them. Then we have al-amilina alayha, and these are the administrative workers. And in this category, if you go down, you'll find that it explains very well who these workers are, and it tells you that these workers must work for the Muslim ruler in an Islamic government, or that applies Islamic law, because such workers are given part of the zakat that they collect. So whether they are accountants, whether they are physically collecting zakat from people or distributing it to the poor, they need wages, they need expenses of travel. The imam, the Muslim ruler, imam means Muslim ruler, not the man who leads a prayer only. This is a general terminology, a wider aspect of it. So the imam is entitled to take from the zakat. He collects and gives a portion of it to those who work, even if they are rich and self-sufficient. Just because they've devoted some of their time to that noble task of collecting and distributing the zakat, they're entitled to have their share, their salary of it. Now, 3-4 lines before the end of this third category, it says that these may deduct from what they collect of zakat money to pay to their staff. And this is referring to Islamic organizations that collect zakat, and this is wrong. Islamic organizations that collect zakat cannot give their workers, their staff, from zakat money under this category, because this category is solely limited to workers in the government underneath a Muslim leader or ruler who appoints them for such a task, and not in charity organizations, definitely not for a billionaire who has a staff that distributes his zakat. I'm a billionaire and I have like $10 million every year zakat, a lot of money. So I hire 5 or 10 people to collect the names of the poor families in my city, and to go and detect whether they're needy or not, and to give them their share of zakat. So can I give from my zakat salary to those? The answer is no. They are not part of the administrative workers, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Number 4, those whose hearts are to be won over. وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةُ قُلُوبُهُمْ. وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ is a category that scholars disputed upon. The most authentic opinion, and the majority of scholars, say that this is the only category we're allowed to give to non-Muslims. Some scholars say that it is not to be given to any non-Muslim, only to those whose hearts are inclined to Islam and they have authority in their people. So I can find 100 janitors and workers and poor people who are non-Muslims, and when they see money, their hearts are inclined to Islam. So I give it to them. The answer is no, because they're interested in my money. But if I genuinely see someone who always asks about Islam, and he says, wow, Islam is a beautiful religion, I love your religion of this and that, and he's genuine in his feelings, I may give him from zakat money if I can, or if I think that this would make him more interested in Islam. There's no problem in that. Scholars say that tribes leaders like Dr. Abdul Rahman al-Sumait, may Allah have mercy on his soul, the Kuwaiti da'iyah, who managed to make like 13 million people accept Islam in Africa. He spent more than quarter of a century there. a great man. He used to go and make da'wah. So he goes to a tribe that are all idol worshippers. 2,000, 3,000 people. And he speaks to their leader. And he convinces him of Islam. And the leader is so happy about Islam and interested in it. So Sheikh Dr. Abdul Rahman gives him money from the zakat as a gift. And the tribe's leader is happy with the money he got, of course, and with the presentation he received about Islam. So he accepts Islam. And immediately the 2,000 followers accept Islam as well. So this money, the zakat, was put in the right place. Walillahi alhamd, with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. Number 5, the freeing of people in bondage. وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. And we know that الرِّقَاب is the slaves. So one category is to free slaves who are Muslims. Either to go and buy a slave from the owner and set him free from zakat money. Or there is something that is called al-mukatab. A slave comes to me, his master, says, "Master, you're a nice man and I want my freedom. So can I buy myself from you?" I said, "Yeah, sure." "Okay, master, how much you want?" I said, "Well, you're worth $5,000 in the market. Bring me 4,000 and you're free. You have 6 months to collect the money." So I set him to go and work. Some of them are good accountants, engineers, maybe handymen. They collect money. And in 6 months' time, he gathers the 4,000 and buys himself off. And I set him free. Sometimes he's not capable of collecting so much money. So he goes to people and asks them for zakat. So the people ask, "Can we give him from zakat money?" The answer is yes. So they help him to buy himself out. Another type of people in bondage, those who were imprisoned, who were taken captive by disbelievers after a war between the Muslims and their enemies. So we go and approach our enemies. We go to the Israelis and say, "Listen, you have in your jails a number of Muslim captives. We want to buy them off and set them free. So we can give also from zakat in that category." And it is important to know that in Islam, a lot of people would open the window for shaitan, for the devil, for Satan, for Lucifer to come and mess up with their mind. So you would think, "Oh, maybe you won't dare talk about it, but you'll think it. Why does Islam allow slavery? This is inhumane. This is not right." First of all, learn to hold your horses and not to jump the gun. Ask yourself, out of the 1,000 things in Islam that I like, how many things that I'm hesitant to understand? 1, 2, of all these 1,000 things, would you compare this to be a serious issue? Isn't there a possibility that the fault is in my analogy and understanding and not in Islam? When we talk about slavery, let's go 1,400 years back in time. So there were Jews, there were Christians, there were idol worshippers, and there were fire worshippers. They existed in Arabian Peninsula and the Middle East. We have no problem in that. Question 1. Was Islam the first to introduce slavery? Answer is definitely not. Islam is the last one of them to come, time-wise. Slavery is there since the beginning of time. Slavery is there in the Old Testament of the Jews and the New Testament of the Christians. It didn't address this or say this bad thing. And the idol worshippers and the Byzantines and Romans and the Greek and the Jews and the fire worshippers, everybody dealt with slavery. So why hold it against Islam? Not only that, when you come and look at the sources of slavery in other cultures and religions, the sky is the limit. If I'm in debt and I can't pay my debt off, they come and take my daughter and my son and turn them into slaves and sell them. If we are a group of people traveling and we see a traveler or two, we raid them, take their money, take their wealth, and make them our slaves and sell them. This is normal practice. A landlord, those who are working on his land are his slaves, are his property. And till date, you can go to some countries in Southeast Asia, without giving names, so poor that you can buy a child for $200 or $300. It's yours. You can do with it whatever you want. In Islam, it's a religion from Allah, came to abolish all of these wrong practices. The only source of slavery that is legitimate and permissible is prisoners of war, captives of war that is between Muslims and non-Muslims. War is inevitable. It will take place. And we see that all wars that are being waged nowadays, or most of them, are waged by non-Muslims. And when they have prisoners of wars, usually they kill them on the battlefield. And at worst case scenario, put them in detention camps like Guantanamo Bay and prisons, maybe for life, in heinous conditions, inhumane conditions. In Islam, the only source of slavery is through war, Islamic war. So we have captives, prisoners. What to do with them? Put them in prison cells for 10, 20 years until they die out of malnutrition or illnesses or diseases? No. Islam says, give them to a Muslim family. And they're sold and bought like animals, but they're treated like human beings. You're not allowed to beat them for no reason. You're not allowed to mistreat them. You must feed them of the food you eat, clothe them of the clothes you wear. Do not burden them with tasks they cannot bear. And if you do, you must assist them and help them physically. This is instruction of the Prophet ﷺ. This is a situation that looks for the pros and cons. Wars are inevitable. What to do with 100,000 prisoners if we raided a country? This is inevitable. You have to do this. Don't say that, why not live in peace? Look what other superpowers are doing to other small countries. So are we expected to just sit there and look? They are doing it. but they're putting it under different labels. WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. They raid a country, they kill 1 million Iraqis. No weapons of mass destruction. Oops, sorry. That's it? That's kiss and make up? This is how they think. So you have to be fair when you look at Islam. Islam does not promote slavery. Islam made slavery as a solution to a problem. But the funny thing is, there's only one source of slavery, and this is wars with non-Muslims. And this is why today we have zero slavery. But if this were to be brought back again, and it will, the funny thing is that though we have one source of slavery, Islam has so many sources of freeing slaves. So Islam encourages us to free a slave. Boom. The Prophet says, whoever frees a slave, Allah will free a limb of that person in exchange for a limb of that slave. Whoa. So if I free a slave man, Allah will say, free my whole body from hellfire. If I free 2 slave women, Allah will free my body from hellfire. This is interesting. I'm interested. Slave, you're free. Go. Not only that, the Prophet said that Allah says, whoever breaks a vow, you have to feed 10 poor people, clothe them, or free a slave. I said, Wallahi, tomorrow I'm not gonna go to school. Now I have to break my oath by freeing a slave? Isn't that too much? This is Islam. Love it or leave it. No, I'm loving it. If you kill someone by mistake, I'm driving down the road and I hit a car and 1 person dies. Free a slave. I have intercourse with my wife during the daytime of Ramadan while fasting. What a heinous sin. Free a slave. I say to my wife, you are haram to me like the back of my mother. Free a slave. What is this? And it goes on and on. So Islam promotes slavery or promotes freeing slaves? Be fair, man. So don't compare Islam today to what you see, the Geneva Convention, the democracy, the human rights. All of this is nonsense and nobody's practicing it. It's just for commercial use. They sell this to the Muslims. They don't apply it. And they don't care about it. And even if they do, we have the religion that we believe in, which is Islam, which we abide by. And this is why knowledge evaporates all doubts. When you have knowledge of your religion, you can stand with your head held up high and confront people with diplomacy, with politeness and respect, but explain to them how strong Islam is and how fragile all of their beliefs are. So once you know why slavery was there, then you will be, inshallah, in good hands. So I think we will take a pause here with the freeing of people of bondage. We finished that, so our next stop would be at the debtors, and no time for questions, so most likely we will leave that for tomorrow, for next session on Monday, bi'idhnillah. We will take, maybe we will devote, well, we will take the rest of the beneficiaries of zakat, and then probably we will devote the rest of the lesson for answering your questions of today and the last time. So until we meet, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.